Okay, hello. This video is about templates and transition words, specifically in the style of writing where you're doing claim, counterclaim, conclusion, or claim, counterclaim, synthesis. There's many names for a very similar style of writing. So just a reminder, the way this structure works is in your claim part, which is usually one paragraph, you introduce and explain one side of the debate. In the counterclaim, you introduce and explain the other side of the debate. And then in the synthesis or conclusion, you weigh the two sides and make it clear which side you stand on. So I have a couple of templates of like how do I state a claim, right? How do I present a debate? So here are some templates. I'm going to zoom in a bit now that I've gotten that done. Here are some claim templates. In recent discussions of Thomas Jefferson, a controversial issue has been whether fill in the blank. On the one hand, some argue that from this perspective, and then you can go into your claim paragraph, right? This could be a good, after your hook, these could come in here. In discussions of John Brown, one controversial issue has been what? On the one hand, and then you introduce your stance. When it comes to the topic of, most of us will readily agree that, where this agreement usually ends. For example, on the topic of slavery, most of us will readily agree that slavery is terrible. Where this agreement usually ends, however, is on the question of how it should have been ended or how we should end it. Oppression, for example. Some are convinced that, and then you present one side. Counterclaim, here are some templates to lead into your counterclaim. On the other hand, however, others argue that, others maintain that. At this point, many would object that. Yet some readers may challenge the view that, of course, many will disagree with the idea that. Some will probably dispute the claim that. You could start your conclusion or counterclaim paragraph with those starters. When you are introducing evidence, here are some ways to introduce it according to, in the words of, as stated in National Geographic. One example is, this can be seen when, for instance, for example, particularly, specifically, but I will tell you right now, according to is lovely. According to is lovely, it is unobtrusive, and you can repeat it twice in every paragraph. No one will feel annoyed by it. It's a very fine thing to repeat. Don't feel bad, like, oh, I got to use something else. But if you would like to mix it up, why not say according to, and the next time say as stated in. And then what about concluding? How might I begin my conclusion? Well, in sum then, the issue is whether Thomas Jefferson is to be celebrated or condemned. My own view is that, and then there you go. Although some might object that, I would reply that. Despite the argument that, I still believe that. In conclusion, I disagree that Thomas Jefferson should be condemned. Instead, I believe he should be celebrated for his accomplishments. Okay? Generally, transition words. I don't know why I love transition words so much, but I really, really do. Think about what you're doing. Are you adding on? Try one of these. Are you elaborating and adding more detail? Try one of these. This is great for reasoning. Are you introducing evidence or an example? Or maybe in your reasoning, you're providing an example. Here's great. Cause and effect. That's great for summarizing. That's great for reasoning. Okay, I presented the cause. What did this lead to? Maybe you have comparison. That's a great one when you're going into your second piece of evidence. Likewise, meaning in the same way, what about when I'm going from one thing to another thing? I want to switch directions. Here's the good, there's the bad. Here is a great list. This is great for your counterclaim. Concession, to say, yeah, you make a point. When you present the counterclaim or when you summarize your counterclaim, you might say, you know what? Admittedly, he did do some good things. He did have the right idea. And then finally, you come to your conclusion. Here are some conclusion words. If you're in class with me, I am printing this for you. All right, let's take a look at my essay. Again, we're always coming back to my speech that I gave you. Let's look at my transition words. If you were in class with me today, I had students hunt through and highlight and circle the transition words, but I will show you, I've done that for you. So I start with my hook, and then I give my background information, and then I start to present my first evidence, and I use the word yet, because I'm making this monument, and it is so beautiful. It's a stunning monument. I'm talking about it, but then I'm going to turn because I'm going to say some negative things. So I say yet. I lead into my quote by saying according to. I lead into my reasoning by saying essentially, because what I'm doing is I'm explaining my quote in its essence. So I use essentially. And then I give my claim and I say because. The word because is great because it creates a dependent clause that I can then add a comma and then my independent clause with my argument. The banderanchas memorial should be taken down, but I add a dependent clause because of the historical connection as human slavery. Now I go into my counterclaim paragraph. Some may point to, and then you list the good things or the other side. According to, that's me leading into my evidence. In addition, that's my second piece of evidence. That's me saying, okay, I'm done with the first evidence. Now I'm going to the second evidence. And then finally, to summarize the counterclaim, I use because of. And then I list the reasons. Then I begin my conclusion with despite. In Portuguese, the word despite is apesar de. Apesar de. In Spanish, it's apesar de. Yeah? So even though, or even with this, yes, there's this, but also despite means, yes, I know that's there, but even with that, I say something else. I also like at the end of the day. It's just a phrase I love. It's a way to say I'm summarizing. The end of the day is this is the conclusion of the day. This is my summary. I like to say at the end of the day. It's just something I enjoy. Then, while some may argue, so I'm acknowledging the counterclaim. Some say this. However, I could put a however there. Yeah. And then I also used this little transition here because I thought I could argue this as a transition. I'm saying I think I've spelled that wrong this whole time. Jesus. Okay. And then I'm transitioning to now I have a solution. Sometimes in a counterclaim, you have a solution, some kind of compromise or middle ground. So I'm signaling to my audience, all right, actually, I have a solution. And that's my transition that says solution coming. I want you to think of transition words like signs on the road. Hey, a curve is coming. Oh, it's very steep. Oh, stoplight. Oh, train tracks. They tell you what's coming next, and they allow you to follow the path that the speaker or the writer wants to take you on. Okay? So those are my transition words. If you notice, not every sentence has one. Maybe you have 3 or 4 per paragraph. Yeah, that's okay. Introduce your evidence. Was there another quote? According to, I forgot this one. So you might have one for each of your pieces of evidence. You might have one at the beginning. You might have one when you go into your conclusion. Please don't go crazy, not every sentence. But transition words, stops, road signs that tell you what's coming. The other way to think about transitions is they are the glue that sticks pieces together. Yeah? I want to go from big rectangle to big blue rectangle to little yellow. Like they don't quite, like, I don't know, giant to small and blue to yellow. Maybe I can find, that's yellow. I was going to say, what if I had a little green triangle that would show me, right? I could cut this. A green triangle that provides, okay, pause. I'm going to make that right now. Yes, I totally just cut that paper. So this green part takes us from the blue. Everything's backwards. The green part takes us from the blue to the yellow so that it blends rather than bonk. Like, what? That was like really abrupt. I don't understand. Oh, we're not in big blue anymore. We're in little yellow. I didn't know that was coming. Well, if you build in a transition, it makes it much smoother. That's what transition words are, yeah? They take you from one idea to the next and show how they relate. Oh, this one's smaller, this one's bigger, this one's blue, this one's yellow. See the fade? Bing. Okay, there's my visual metaphor for transition words. So go through your piece. Have you signaled? Have you given a sign that you were moving on to your next piece of evidence? That you were starting a new paragraph, that you were concluding, that you were reasoning, that you were adding on or changing direction? Use those transition words to signal your listeners or your readers.